Hi gorgeous lights, welcome to the last video according to Upstairs on or Spirit, on the complex soul agreements, and how they play out and what they're meant to do when they actually come to an end and why they come to an end, if that makes sense too. So understanding the importance of soul agreements, and soul agreements can be as simple as um, a person that you meet in the grocery store that moves their trolley out of the way, says you look fantastic today, and you go away slightly lifted. So there is a whole myriad of subtleties, and this is one thing that people can get very, very confused about when they come and they say to me, well, why did I have that experience? What was that experience about? It can be the subtlety of the experience can be incredibly important, and people can miss it. So a lot of understanding or awareness at times, or our ability to dismiss things as coincidence, can actually stop us saying what the value was, because you know in yourself, in the way that the universe actually responds to you, is if you are having a bad day, it's kind of like you come across every person that's actually having a bad day. Those are the reflection type things that can go backwards and forwards that can actually help you learn. Now, in complex soul agreements, normally before you actually arrive on the earth plane, and I've mentioned this, you can actually enter into a soul agreement for specific reasons. Now, I have a complex soul agreement with my own twin, who I, at a soul level, absolutely adore. And I'm truly grateful in this lifetime for the learning that he's actually brought towards me, because he has chosen to take the role that amplifies abandonment and rejection and betrayal, which is very, very hard if you're a twin. That is like your womb buddy. So to have my twin decide, and it's entirely his decision, that he does not want me in his life. He's very, very aware when we get together, our telepathy levels go through the roof, his connection with spirit goes through the roof, his understanding and awareness of spirit goes through the roof. He does not want any of these things. So in this lifetime, the fact that I have embraced these things, these abilities, and the abilities that we've got to be able to do this, means that I represent for him the things that he doesn't want to address. And so it's been easier for him to basically back away and estrange himself from our relationship, just simply because of the fact that how close it brings spirit into his world when he doesn't want it. So he has actually chosen in this lifetime to, because he's got the same threads as me, to abandon, reject, and betray his connection to spirit. And don't take that as a negative thing, because this is an experiential learning, and that's the one thing that I've noticed and been talking about an awful lot to clients, is that while we're in the human body, and the human mind has this amazing ability to take everything personally, we can get very, very caught up that the universe is personally attacking us, or our relationships or family relationships are personally attacking us. But in reality, they're actually teaching us about who we want to be as a person. So I have a tremendous amount of pain and sorrow and loss and abandonment, rejection, betrayal associated with my twin, but I also have a parallel amazing amount of gratitude, because I have had to learn without him, away from him, to lean into myself, to nurture myself, to love myself, to give myself approval, all the things that stop me rejecting, abandoning, and betraying myself through the loss of my twin. So people say, oh, that's really terrible, it's family, senses of duty, sticking together. No, family connections and familial connections are massive, massive learning experiences where someone in your soul group has actually chosen to have this alignment with you, either be there for you or take those really nitty gritty hard roles that of judgment, of criticism, of entitlement. There's many, many, many layers, or many, many, many experiential levels to help you learn about you. when you apply gratitude, forgiveness, and love, you can do that for you. And this is something that you need to understand. It's very, very important. You do not have to have that person in your life. If you decide for your own well being, or in this case, my twin has decided for his own well being, he does not want me in his life. And I have surrendered to acknowledging that that's actually his choice, and I'm truly grateful for all the learning that he's brought to me in my lifetime. So I don't have to have him in my life. You can love anyone and direct love, because it's energy, to absolutely anybody that you come across. And gratitude and forgiveness, you can do that. You do not need to have them in your life. And there's been many instances in my life where I can surrender to the fact that at a soul level, I absolutely adore the soul that has chosen to have this experience with me, but I also can not like them to a degree at a human level, and that's okay. But you have to be able to surrender to going, I forgive the situation, I forgive what I didn't know, I forgive the learning, and I love them, but I surrender to the choices that they actually make. By the same token, I never, ever, ever believe, and I really want to hold you to this, is if you are not welcome in a person's life, please don't push the connection out of a sense of duty or the fact that your family, no matter the opinion of other family members, like it's, is it a shame? Yep, absolutely. Is what it is? Absolutely. At the end of the day, can I change it? Absolutely not. But I can surrender to loving that person from a distance, being very grateful for what they've taught me, and understanding it's okay to just surrender to the fact that it isn't quite the way that I thought it was going to be. And when I look at it from a soul level and go, this is a human level, if you like, not a soul level, because a soul level always understands, but from a human level, sure, I can do the grief and the sorrow and that sort of thing, but I don't want to carry that with me for a billion years. I will surrender to really surrendering in gratitude to the learning that I actually got. So, I was asked a question today, and it's pertinent. If I have worked through this, should I have this person in my life? If you like them, fantastic. But don't have them in your life if none of their behaviour has changed, or they're just going to turn up in the same way. I mean, once you've learnt enough and you have forgiven a situation or moved on from a situation or grieved a situation or whatever, don't put yourself back in the same situation, because just because you learnt it in a complex soul agreement does not mean that the other person learnt it. Now, I also want to explain this as well, is if you have a soul agreement that is amplifying what's called the dark night of the soul, which is kind of like the moon aspect or the shadow aspect of your soul, which is all your fears, insecurities, all the things that you don't like to address about yourself, then, and you have a soul level agreement with someone to trigger all those things, which is really, really important for your own personal growth and acceptance of yourself, then understand that those are can feel like very, very traumatic experiences, and it can be really, really hard to have gratitude for the people that are bringing this to you and who's teaching you about this as well, because the ultimate push from the universe when you have a dealing with the shadow aspects of your soul growth is, and it can go like this. You can have a spiritual awakening, a spiritual awareness, tootle along for a period of time, and then get triggered by lots of people, or have it as a lifetime experience, to actually trigger all your insecurities, a lack of approval, whatever, so that you actually give yourself approval, that you forgive yourself, that you love yourself, that you embrace yourself, and unconditional love, that you accept yourself. Now, someone said to me the other day, this is just what happens in your 50s. No, it's not. By the time you're in your 50s, you're actually getting to a point where you're understanding that if you don't like yourself, no one will. So it's an evolutionary growth along the way. And it's certainly not a criticism. You can find it out earlier on as well. But it also takes you into a space where you can stop blaming everybody else for what they bring to the table and come into acceptance that it's your choice about whether you take everything personally as well. Is that to do with complex soul agreements? Yes, but it's also evolutionary growth of who you're becoming as a person. So, this complex and spiderweb intertwining that we actually have with people is actually really, really important. Now, when it comes to deciding whether you want that person in your life still, please understand this as well. If you choose to have that person in your life, then you need to unconditionally accept that in whatever format that they actually turn up, that that's them, and not take responsibility. Now, this is something that's causing a problem with complex soul agreements, particularly to do with carer souls that are on the earth plane, is where, because they remember in their heart unconditional love and complete acceptance, they kind of want to organise everybody to do that too. Soul evolution is unique. It is unique, and I've said it before, as your fingerprints. You cannot rush someone, and I'm learning this massively at the moment in my own life. You can, just because you really, really desire to actually be with a person and love the person because you can see them at a soul level, you cannot rush a person's evolution. You cannot. That is called trying to control the situation. So each of us have our own unique agreement with our own soul, with the universe, with the rest of our soul tribe, that we will allow and hold space for other people in their evolutionary understanding as well. That's a hard thing to do. It is a very hard thing to desperately want a person to evolve, or particularly as carer souls have a hidden gift where they can actually see the potential of who the person can be. Well, that's fantastic. You can always see the potential of who a person can be, but it's not up to you to force them to be that person. They're either going to become that person on their own volition and their own growth and evolution, or not. It's a free choice realm. It's up to them. And holding space is not something that human beings do particularly well for each other. We're so insistent that people should sharpen up, grow up, become who they need to be. We're forgetting that we had our own soul evolution along the way, and you'll be doing a soul evolution until you die. That's the way it works. Because this is a learning realm, you're here to learn, and we are being really, really pushed by the universe, and I've mentioned this before, to head into the age of unity means coming into unconditional love, which is acceptance. No saying that person is lesser intelligent than me, than that person's a dork, or that person didn't do this, or whatever. That's judgment. And if you're going to judge them, you'll be judging yourself, because the rule of thumb is if you're pointing at somebody else, you actually have three fingers pointing straight back at you. So probably not the best idea to increase a little bit more soul evolution onto yourself and soul level understanding if you're going around critiquing the entire world, because that is not unconditional love. That is judgment, control, and really just trying to actually manipulate the situation so it suits you. Not everybody thinks the same way as you, and they're not meant to. It's a learning realm. So really, really, really important. Now, the other thing to also remember with complex soul agreements as well is that when you do the work on yourself being triggered by other people and desperately, desperately wanting to be loved by them, it is never going to be enough. They're never going to step up and love you the way that you need to do yourself. And it's really, really interesting to actually, listen to the dynamic. This Miley Cyrus song is out at the moment called Flowers, and people are really loving the song because it's really illuminating where you need to love yourself, where you need to gift yourself, what you can do for yourself, and even though it's kind of like a little bit, a thumb in the face to her own relationship, it's also, she can see where she's learned an awful lot about herself, and what she gives herself in empowerment empowers her even more into honouring people, choosing more what she wants out of her life, coming really to terms of how she actually turns up, and to be fair, we get the most growth from these complex soul agreements as well if we do not go into victim mode and think that every single other person that's on the planet is going to do exactly the same thing to us. They're not. You are fine-tuning who you want in your life. the reasons you want those people in your life, their authenticity, their understanding, their compassion, their empathy, and this way the collective consciousness 100% changes, and it's really, really fantastic to watch this dynamic just play out, because we need it in order for collective consciousness to lift up to the level of unification and more compassion and empathy and understanding, which is actually missing off the earth plane in huge amounts. Then the more you gift that to yourself, the more that we raise collective consciousness as well. So, and I have a philosophy, and I've had it for my entire life as well, is that if I can grow and learn as much as possible in this lifetime, and just always hold myself to being the love that I wish that I had actually received, then I can aspire to be generous with love, because it's a limitless dynamic. It's a bottomless dynamic. You can keep loving and loving and loving. There's no limitations to it. I mean, and someone said to me, well, if you're loving everybody and they take everything, and I said, no, that's different. That is about expecting that you've got a limitation on how you love people, or rules and conditions about how you love people. You need healthy boundaries when you love people, so that you don't actually end up being like the ever-ready battery and completely drained by people. But you do actually need to actually understand that love is a vast, vast commodity that you can just keep gifting. And the quickest way for me to explain it, which upstairs is just Spirit's just saying at the moment, is that, when you think how much you love your animals, if you have animals or children, you just keep loving and loving and loving, because you accept how they actually are and how they're actually turning up. And it's a reciprocal flow. You're not expecting or demanding that your cat comes and sees you every morning and gives you the love that you need. Yet we have a tendency as human beings to do that with other people, with very little regard of measurement, because you're measuring them by what your expectation, this invisible, what does Spirit call it, this invisible, measuring stick of what is the amount of love that you actually expect from other people towards yourself. Until you give yourself that love, then you're never going to recognise that people can only love you as deeply as what they actually love themselves. So we have a massive amount of communication problems and relationship issues, familial ones and security ones, driven by a dynamic, I have to say, of our society that says have your degrees of separation, don't work together, put your old people in a home sort of thing, instead of looking at the wisdom that they actually bring to things. And we're not actually got this sense of community anymore as well. So from what I'm saying, our complex soul agreements are actually becoming more complex, because we've got this degree of separation where we're not honouring how we learn, and we're not forgiving easily. And we've adopted this philosophy of, oh, that person's a dork, whatever, I can't see their point of view, I'm not listening to it, I'll shut them out of my life, without exploring the why underneath, because our hurt says they didn't turn up in the way that I expected them to, so that's it, they're out. So we're not really applying patience and tolerance and understanding to other people, let alone gifting it to ourselves. So we have a bit of evolution and some crunching time going on the earth plane, particularly in 2023, where it's a push me pull you year, because we will actually, on top of the complex soul agreements, try to clear themselves and all the karmic learning and ancestral loops, which is a lot. We also have the push of the collective consciousness to say, reconnect with yourself, because if you don't reconnect with yourself, how are you going to connect with humanity and be patient and tolerant and all the things that we aspire to be, if you're not actually consciously looking at how you're actually turning up on this? Now, this year is going to be the battle for a lot of people between their societal programming, familial programming, or belief structure, and where your soul is actually wanting to break free from this and actually go, no, I don't want to live under those rules and conditions anymore. I actually really, really want to actually be myself and love my life and be honest and stop keeping things to myself and clear my throat chakra and live a simplified, happy life with the people that I care about all the way around me. So this year is pushing you to stop listening to programming, degrees of separation, being told what to do, and start listening to the truth of what you actually want for yourself as well. Because the bottom line is human beings are pack animals. They like being, and you can say, oh, I'm an introvert. It doesn't matter. You still will have people around you that you deeply care about, and those people that are really good for you. And you know what? The less people that you have around you, the more condensed the soul level learning is, because if you haven't got a bandwidth of people that you're actually learning from, then it comes into smaller areas, and the smaller areas that it comes into, the more intense the learning comes in as well. So realise that the souls that are coming through and children as well, they're bringing multi-level learning because, and they're under quite a lot of pressure, the poor things, because they're actually being pushed by the universe to help elevate our generation, the generation before, into empathy and understanding. And they're not here for rules and conditions. These are the big love kids that are coming out. And so their complex soul agreements are, they need extra nurturing, they need extra loving, they need extra patience and time, or they're going into depression and anxious stages as well. And it's really, really important. We're not teaching how to nurture ourselves, how to accept ourselves, and how to love ourselves. So how are we expecting the kids to learn this? So we are creating these karmic loops that go round and round and round, really, that actually need addressing and need actually looking at. The more awake and aware we become, the better we can support each other as well. So these complex soul agreements are worth investigating, worth actually looking at, and it's worth doing this for yourself as well, because if we reach emotional equilibrium, deal with the shadow aspects of ourselves, forgive the people that are just here to teach us, then you can actually live your life in a completely different format. So it's really, really important that you actually think about this as well. Now, just as an aside, Spirit has actually said, if you are interested in information, again, I'll reiterate it, please get in contact. We can do a session, but also by all means let me know what you're actually interested in, because I kind of feel like there's a bottomless source of information that can be tapped into about most subjects, about anything, and it's certainly with knowledge comes wisdom, with wisdom comes understanding, and with understanding comes acceptance. So it's a pretty clear pathway to walk if you choose to walk it. Take care of you.